You loved the first one. You left the cinema talking about it for days. You told your friends. You rewatched it. And when the sequel was announced, you were there on opening night, certain this was going to be just as good, maybe better. Then you watched it, and something was missing. You could not always name what. The jokes hit slightly less. The stakes felt bigger somehow, and yet mattered less. The magic that made the first one special was technically all still there, and yet it wasn't. Why does this happen so often that it has become a cliché? The most obvious explanation people reach for is that the studio just got lazy or greedy. That is rarely the real story. Most sequels are made by people trying genuinely hard. The problem is structural, and it starts before a single scene is even written. Here is the first issue. The original film almost never expected to need a sequel. Most beloved original films are complete stories, built with a beginning, middle, and end that fully resolve. The writer was not saving anything back. There was no franchise plan sitting in a drawer, which means a sequel usually has to invent new stakes from nothing, often bigger stakes, because bigger is the easiest lever a sequel can pull when the actual story has already been told. Bigger explosions, bigger villain, higher body count, a world-ending threat instead of a personal one. But bigger is not the same as better, and audiences can feel the difference even when they cannot explain it. Psychologists call part of this effect hedonic adaptation. The same mechanism that means a pay rise feels amazing for a month and then becomes your new normal. The first film recalibrated your expectations. The sequel is being judged against an already elevated baseline, not against a blank slate the way the original was. Here is the second issue, and it is almost entirely about money. A successful original film is, from a studio's perspective, proof of a formula that already worked. And the financial logic of a sequel is brutally simple. Minimize the risk of repeating that success, rather than maximize the chance of creating something new. That usually means keeping the same director if possible, the same cast, the same tone, the same basic plot shape, deliberately, on purpose. Innovation is treated as the dangerous variable, not the goal. This creates what film industry analysts sometimes call the franchise trap. The safest way to protect an enormous budget is to give audiences something close to what they already loved. But close to what you already loved is, definitionally, never quite what you already loved. It is an imitation of it, made by people who know exactly what worked and are now trying to reproduce it on command, under a release date deadline, with a much larger budget and much larger expectations riding on it. There is a third factor, and it might be the most important one. Surprise itself is not repeatable. A huge amount of what makes an original film feel magical is the experience of not knowing where it is going. A twist you did not see coming. A tone you were not expecting. A character you fell for without warning. None of that can happen twice in the same way because you now know the twist, you know the tone, you already know the character. The sequel is fighting an opponent the original never had to face, your own memory of how good the first time felt. Not every sequel fails this test. Some genuinely improve on the original, usually by refusing to simply repeat it, instead taking real risks with tone, structure, or scope rather than playing it safe. Those are the exceptions people remember precisely because they are rare, and precisely because they broke the formula rather than following it. But for most franchises, the sequel is not fighting to make a good film. It is fighting an unwinnable battle against a feeling, the specific, unrepeatable thrill of experiencing something completely new for the very first time. You are not disappointed because the sequel got worse. You are disappointed because it can never again be the first time. Now you know.